the party president, the general secretary, the treasurer general, and members of the media, not forgetting our wonderful citizens who are watching us from wherever they are. To you I say good morning and welcome to yet another interactive media session with the President, the General Secretary, and the Treasurer General. I now hand over to the Secretary General, the General Secretary, to address the media. General Secretary, good morning.
Appreciated, and thank you very much again. We have always been asked by the general public, what is your policy when it comes to business? The notion out there is that socialism and business do not go hand in hand. That's a fallacy, that's a lie. And today we are going to spend some bit of time to look at that issue. What does the Socialist Party think about business? How is Zambia going to be transformed by the Socialist Party, combining government activities, cooperative activities, municipalities that get involved in business, and the private sector. And again, the President is here, the General Secretary is here, and we will spend some bit of time looking at those issues. So, yesterday we had a meeting, the General Secretary, you are welcome to this topic.
General Treasurer.
The General Treasurer, sorry for that. The General Treasurer, you are welcome to this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you. The President, the first question is, does the Socialist Party think about private business?
For many of our people, to get a benefit from an economy, from their economy, they either have to find work in it, that's employment in it, or they have to run a business in it. Socialism is not a decree, a declaration. You don't wake up and declare yourself, we are socialists today. Overnight. Socialism is a process. It is a process. It is a process that has to deal with how production is organized. It is a process that has to deal with how what is produced is distributed in society. And there are many ways to produce. On top of that, your resources go through these banks. These banks are making money out of your money. The NAPSA money, which is your money, your pension money, amounting to almost $10 billion, goes through these foreign banks predominantly. 30% or so of NAPSA money goes through Stanchart. This is the money these foreign banks use to make money. They buy treasury bills or invest in treasury bills. They make the money, they externalize the money. Most of the government deposits are with them. Your wage bills go through these banks. They make money and externalize that money. The interest rates are high, beyond the reach of most of our people. Your chances of getting a meaningful loan from these banks to run a proper business are near to zero.
So maybe without you losing track of the thought process, again, in other words, if you want to develop the Zambian economy, there has to be funding.
Funding is like blood in your body.
You can't have a body that doesn't have blood flowing through it. That's the issue, and that's your banks. Now, if these banks are not owned by you, they are not owned by Zambia, these are foreign banks. Foreign banks are there to further foreign interests. As simple as that. That's their origin, that's their history. They came here because this was a colonial settlement. They came to support colonial businesses. So even their priority today cannot be Zambia. That's why you cannot develop an indigenous capitalist class in Zambia. A prerequisite is the financial market. If you don't own the financial market, there's no way you are going to develop a Zambian capitalist class. As simple as that. That's a prerequisite to the development of your state sector, of your cooperative sector, and your private businesses. Without the control over banks, you cannot do it. So that is one area. Normally, some people call it the financial market. We don't have control over it.
Even Cecil Rhodes, when he came here, his funding came from 3 countries.
Exactly.
From banks in 3 countries. The major part of it came from American banking. The second came from the British banking. The third was South African banks. That's how he got his money. He didn't come with a suitcase of his own money that he had been saving. No. Cecil Rhodes was funded by banks to come and colonize you. And the 80 banks also came with him. The bank that boasts to be the oldest bank in this country did not come for us. It came for Cecil Rhodes and his friends. And also to finance the white farmers who were brought here, former British soldiers, who were given land from Livingstone to Chirilawombwe.
As compensation for having fought in the First and Second World War.
Yes. And they were assisted to produce foodstuffs for the mines. They were assisted to produce maize, which they themselves were not consuming, but it was meant for us to consume.
Basically, every industry, every business has to have funding.
Yes.
And if you have no control over funding, forget about it.
That's why to this very day, from 1891 when we were colonized, we don't have rich Zambians. Not that wealth has not been produced in this country. Since mining started, more and more money was being produced. As more minerals were being produced or mined, more money was also being generated. But that money did not get into your hands. Yes, you could have a small shop here, a small tea room here as a Zambian, but you never got into any meaningful business. Even now you are struggling. You have to be chola boys to some other people for you to get a small benefit. You have to turn yourself into a comprador, a middleman, a broker, a deal broker. That's why you find even your own presidents in this country become brokers, become middlemen.
Chola boys.
Chola boys of foreign capital.
The worst part about it is that these foreign banks don't come with those suitcases of money into Zambia, because the notion is always about they have brought in the money. That is also wrong.
It's a lie.
Conception. What happens in most cases, if you look at the balance sheets of most of these financial institutions, is that they mobilize resources locally. The government budget alone, at its lowest, was about 19-20% of your GDP. At its best, at its highest, was 30% of the GDP. But this is a very highly monetized activity. Government budget is in monetary terms. 99% of the national budget is monetary. So because of that, it forms a huge part of what ends up in the commercial banks. And today, the commercial banks cannot run without business. Basically, your national budget ends up with the banks, and they make money out of it. And that money, when it is made, is taken out of your country, because you do not own and control those banks. Can you control something you don't own?
You have no control over what is not yours. Other people's things are controlled by them. And unfortunate for us, we don't even control what we own. We have the NAPSA money. When you make a contribution to NAPSA, NAPSA does not keep that money in its offices. It takes that money to the banks.
Because NAPSA is not a bank.
It's not a bank. It takes that money to the bank. The bank makes money out of that money. You have no control over that money. Your NAPSA money, you don't have control over it.
And please don't get us wrong. We are not saying get into power in 2026 and nationalize all banks. That's not what we are saying. All we are saying is let's have Zambian-owned banks, 100% owned banks. This can be individual banks, private, this can be parastatal.
In fact, most of our sectors can create banks for themselves.
Even local district can have a small bank for itself.
Each province can have a bank.
And 100 rich Zambians can come up with a bank, working with the government, that bank can grow.
Yes.
So if Zambian money was to go to Zambian banks first, and there's no country that doesn't put its citizens first. You go to America, they will say America first. You get into Europe, Europe takes care of its businesses.
If you are doing any business with the Americans today in this country, I can bet you your transactions will be conducted through Citibank.
Exactly.
And you'll be told also to buy or to use American automobiles on your project, and you only get a waiver if there is no Ford here.
There's no Jeep.
Or Jeep or Chevron.
So why do
you will not go and buy a Toyota without permission?
Why do countries do that? Because they are voted for by their citizens. That money is from the taxpayer. Now, when you have a colonial economy, a colonial pattern, it's not the country, it's not the citizens that come first. It's the foreign interests that come first. And control over your own money, your national budget, is prerequisite. Zambia can have its own banks. There is enough money in circulation. 60% of the money in circulation in the banks is public. So with that alone, you could come up with viable banks that fund Zambian businesses, that fund your parastatals, that fund your cooperative sector. So long we don't have control and ownership over finance, Zambian businesses will remain small and they will suffer under high interest rates. Other countries do it differently. China funds its businesses. Even the capitalist countries fund their businesses. Vietnam is doing pretty well, but that's not possible without funding that is state-controlled. Why are we failing to do it? Can we do that without taking away this colonial pattern of ownership?
You can't. A neo-colonial economy serves the colonial masters or neo-colonial masters. Governments that are constituted along those lines also serve those interests. The main purpose is to externalize and externalize and externalize. You are not making money to keep in this economy. You are making money to take it to where those who own that money or those businesses are. It's not for keeping here. And as long as you don't keep the resources here, you don't bank your money here, our people will never have access to capital.
Worst of all, even a 4 billion you earn out of copper doesn't come into the Zambian banking system.
No, it doesn't. Firstly, you don't own the copper. You don't even know
how much
of that copper is what grade. You don't even know what in that copper is other byproducts. We have had ministers who have allowed, ministers of finance who have allowed what Michael Sata called soil to be exported. One time when I was running the post, I got a phone call from President Michael Sata. Uli kuisa, ndi ku office, isa kuno. Kuisa ku State House. No mbalime. I went there. Michael said, I've made a mistake. If it was you, I would excuse you because you don't know what I know. But I can't excuse myself because I know what I know. Your relative has allowed these mining companies to export soil. I said, what do you mean? To export unprocessed minerals. We don't know what is in those minerals. We don't know what that soil comprises of. We can't run like this. What he meant is we are taking money out. We are taking minerals out. Look, we are not against people coming to mine here. But when they come to mine, there must be a benefit.
There has to be value addition.
Not where they take the minerals out and they also take the money out. So what do we remain with?
Holes in the ground.
We are poor today because those who have been mining from the early 20s, they have been taking the copper and other minerals out, and they have also been taking the money out.
They have left pollution behind.
They can take the minerals, but also let's remain with the money from mining, or a substantial part of that.
So
if we were sharing even 50-50, we wouldn't be this poor. From the early 20s to date, we wouldn't be this poor. We are poor because they have been taking everything. What we are saying is leave something for our people. If our people were involved in mining in a meaningful way, not the chaos that we are seeing in the gold mining and other small mining.
Lots of stealing, smuggling going.
Yes. The Zambian people are not benefiting that much. We are saying, let's get that business organized properly. Let's facilitate our people to get into meaningful mining. That is orderly. That is efficient and effective. And also that is properly financed and supported by government.
And the
both
mining,
in terms of production and in terms of marketing.
And the mining will produce cash. That cash will end up in the banks, and as it comes in the banks, there's intermediation taking place, and that's the one that funds local businesses.
Comrade, if our people who are in mining, even in small mining, brought all that money, and also the big mines brought all that money back into Zambia, we would have billions in the banks. Yes, it's their money, but it's their money only on paper. There's a balance on paper. The money is in the bank, and as long as it's in the bank, in our local bank, that money will be lent to a businessman.
So again, the way an economy is structured is such that you have what is called the real economy, and you have the financial or monetary economy. Now, the real economy is where you produce your goods and services. But those goods and services have to be monetized. As they are monetized, there is an intermediation. Those are the ones you call the banks. So the banks are the custodians. They keep the money on the demand side, on the side of the customers, but also on the production side. So they are the ones who keep all that money. And as they keep that money, they make money out of that money. Money reproduces itself. And they are able to service your liquidity needs, but at the same time also use that money to lend to businesses. So you always find that the monetary part of the economy is going to grow faster than your real economy. But after some years, that money there in the financial economy will help the real economy to grow. You can't grow Zambian businesses, the Zambian economy, if you don't control the financial sector. It's as simple as that. Let's go to another product market. We have talked about finance and how intricate it is and how it disadvantages Zambian activities and it causes poverty. Something called the product market. Now, product market is the nature of your products. Zambia has to produce products that can be consumed, that can compete within the Zambian market. But those products also are not just for Zambia. We have neighbors, and some of the neighbors are hungry. They may need Zambian products. We have to send products that side. We have to export our products also to earn a little bit more money to balance our payments. Now, products need a certain quality. Products, if they're agriculture, they have to be nutritious. And products also have to be known. That's where the branding part of it comes in. And Zambian businesses suffer a lot under that. The product market for Zambian businesses is very uneven. What's the problem? The problem, apart from financing, is also the issue of innovation and technology. And innovation and technology is an area that the average Zambian business cannot just invest into. Normally, this is an area where the state comes in. The state plays a huge role, and our socialist state has always emphasized the issue of research and development.
We have talked about this several times. Our Zambian businesses cannot grow without huge investments in R&D. And the General Treasurer, you have always emphasized, let's put money in R&D. And that will benefit private businesses, it will benefit parastatal business. Just some weights on that.
Let's talk with an example. We have the pharmaceutical industry in this country that is so small, struggling. The market is small. The amount of money needed for research is huge. These companies don't have the capacity to deal with that. The government should come in to work with pharmaceutical companies to produce medicines for our people. Government needs to assist these companies with research, cooperate with them with research. And on top of that, if they produce good medicines, it is the duty of government to ensure that it helps them to find markets. Find markets in the region, find markets in the bigger economies of the world with big populations, like China. If the government went to China to negotiate deals for our people producing medicines here, for the companies producing medicines here, in a population of 1.4 billion human beings, one product within 1 year, 2 years, the company will be a big billion-dollar company. These businesses that are here, the socialist government will not look at them as private companies just for the benefit of their owners. No. As long as they are Zambian owned, they are our businesses. The owners of those businesses just get a tiny little benefit. The income of those businesses, part of it goes to paying salaries and wages, part of it goes to paying Zambian suppliers and others, part of it goes to taxes. The little that they get doesn't make them the only owners, the only stakeholders in those private companies.
But it's good enough for them to buy their jets and all that.
No, we don't mind. They can become billionaires. We have said it that we will create more billionaires or millionaires than any government. We are not petty. The only thing is that those millionaires, those billionaires will not be us. It will be the Zambian business.
And would allow those private jets to be here.
Yes, our only requirement is the money they make, let it be banked here.
Exactly.
Let it be banked here so that other Zambians can access that money.
Not in Panama.
No, we don't want that money to go to Panama, to go to Dubai. If we are going to assist them, the only cost to them is to bank their money here, and it will be guaranteed it will not be taken. Even when they have committed the crimes, it's not their money that has committed the crimes. We will not touch it. We'll deal with them, but not their money. And we are not only talking about Zambians. We are talking about Africans.
Let's say.
Our national anthem says, Africa is our own motherland.
Maybe you can repeat that.
Our national anthem doesn't say Zambia is our own motherland. It says Africa is our own motherland. We don't want Nigerian businessmen, billionaires, to take their money to Dubai, to Switzerland. We want them to come here to be invested in Africa.
I hope Nigeria is listening.
We don't want those Kenyans with the billions to take their money to Dubai. We want them to invest that money in Africa,
the Congolese,
in Zambia, the Congolese, the Ugandans, and so on. Bring your money to Africa, to Zambia.
It will be safe.
It will be safe, and we have to guarantee that. Even when we have serious differences with the individuals, they have committed other crimes, don't touch their money. We don't want that money to be taken to the most corrupt country in the world called Switzerland.
And the imperialist countries.
Yes, Switzerland is the most corrupt country in the world. But when you go to the corruption index, they rank the best. But that's a country that is being built on stolen money from all parts of the world. They take their money there to hide it there. When you die, your family can't even access that money sometimes they take. We are saying bring your money here is to be safer in the socialist government, and socialists are honest people.
So
They stick to their commitments.
quite a lot. So still on the product market, you were mentioning the issue of heavy investments in research. Our general treasurer is a farmer, and he struggles, vaccinations. What else do you struggle with that could be research and funded in Zambia? Maybe let's give him that chance.
Well, thank you. Literally everything. Literally everything. But what I would like to say is that the discussion is clearly indicating this suction pump. You have your resources, you have your wealth. Somebody comes with a suction pump and puts on your mines, puts on your agriculture, puts on everything, and they suck it out. If you look around in our country, the rural areas, they used to be very productive. People, when they left the urban area to go and visit the rural area, they'll come back with bags of food and supplies and so on. Today it's the other way around.
You come from town, you are supposed to take things to the rural
Exactly.
areas.
People come from the rural areas now, they come to town. They want you to give them to take back to the rural areas. Because the pump is working. It's sucking everything it can. Unfortunately, it's not staying in the country. We are sending it out because it's somebody else's sucking pump. It's somebody else's bank. If you have your own bank, that sucking remains within the country itself. It's the investment that you make within the country.
Wonderful.
So the system that is there has to be curtailed, has to be stopped for the benefit of the people of Zambia, for the benefit of the people of Africa. The way it is now, it's sucking everything out. Not only in Zambia, in the other countries also, they are basically hoover. You know when you hoover your house, you are getting everything that you even go under the chair and you suck everything out. That's what the system does. And our intention is to ensure that that system does not continue. People should benefit from their resources. Zambia, I think, is one of those rich countries that have all these minerals, but we have nothing to show for it.
So again, in other
Maybe
ways,
before we move on, the transitional corporations actually ensure that they get into government politicians
that work
who
for them.
become suction pumps for them, who ensure that that suction pump does not stop working.
like the current government.
Yes. They pay for them. They sponsor their election. They keep them in government so that they continue to benefit. Any politician, any movement that tries to go against that
Scandalized.
is scandalized. Sometimes if they're in government, they are toppled.
You are branded to be anti-business. So again, back to the product market. If it's your cassava, what we are saying is that we need heavy investments in cassava varieties or cultivars. We need investments in terms of research that look at the processing part of it, that look at the different byproducts of cassava, whether it's your livestock, whether it's your baking, your baking industry, whether it's your mining, where you need cassava products, and many other uses of cassava. All that needs some bit of research and public funding. We are also looking at cassava as products, the branding part of it. That has to be invested, the marketing part of it. And the president was alluding to outside markets. Where do you sell your finished cassava products? And that cannot be done by the individual Zambian business person. Government has to come in, create an environment where the Zambian products have a market, and the small-scale farmer continues to benefit. When you have a market, the product is assured, then you can start talking of development. So that's what we're talking about, the product market. It's key, and that cannot be done by one person. It cannot be done by a single entity. It needs the collective approach of government, the private sector, and many others. Let's go to the third aspect of where our businesses struggle.
It's normally called the regulatory market. And again, we started with the financial part of it. We have come to the product market. Now we are going to the regulatory environment.
Regulation is about allowing business to exist. Regulation is about
Making it easier for the one who is starting a business.
regulation is about
Ensuring that
those in businesses can access the financial market, the research institutions. Regulations is about the workers of this country also having dignity as they work. They are not slaves.
this is the 21st century. Yes, we were slaves some hundreds of years back, but we are not slaves. So the person working is creating value. They have to have dignity. And that's also the product of regulation. Regulation has to ensure that the products that come from Zambia are safe and that human beings do not lose lives because of those products. So regulation plays a huge role.
And the take that we have in the socialist parties,
We have failed the growth of the Zambian economy because of weak regulation, partial regulation.
and this regulation allows everything to go, and at the end of the day, you get nothing out of it, really.
We have governments, we have politicians that sell policy, that sell regulation, both in the negative and in the positive. They make rules that benefit certain businesses, and they are paid for it.
Especially foreign ones.
Yes. And these things come out from time to time. They come out from time to time. There are no permanent secrets in this world. They come out after some time. We want to set rules or regulations that ensure that we maximize production. Because our people will only benefit when the economy grows. And the economy grows through maximizing production. We make rules that ensure that all those involved in the production of those goods and services get a fair share. The businessmen who are involved, who are leading that process, get a fair share. The government that is also involved in that production, securing that production and so on, also gets a fair share. The suppliers to those businesses also get a fair share. The workers who are involved in producing those goods and services also get a fair share. In the end, you get production that is anchored on win-win situation, where all those involved in them benefit. For the workers to benefit, they also need good representation in the production by strengthening their trade unions, sharpening the activities of their trade unions. Those who are in the supplying business to those production or to the production of goods and services also need to create their own associations so that they can get a fair deal. The government has to be honest, has to be predictable, has to be sincere, has to be consistent in its regulation and taxation of business. We also need a patriotic business group. We need patriotic businessmen.
Maybe just that, brother. There's always this notion a businessman does not know patriotism. A businessman or businesswoman is so much focused on profit, everything else does not count. Can we just counteract that?
We don't mind a businessman making as much money as they can, but there's need for them to realize they are becoming rich, they are making money because of the opportunity their people are giving them.
The country is giving them.
The country is giving them. So they owe something to their own country. And we are not alone in that thinking. Look at the European businesses. Look at the American businesses, how much they are protected by their people, by their governments. You touch an American business here, tomorrow there will be a war here.
Allende was taken out of power in Chile.
By just trying to deal with businesses. Abenzi in, what is this country? Guatemala. Was taken out by trying to just alter the profit lines of the fruit, the American fruit company. He was overthrown. They don't play when you touch their businesses because it's their businesses that are bringing money to America. We also need to protect and support our businesses. They are the ones who produce wealth in this country, together with the workers and others. But they lead the process with, of course, the participation of government. So we have to protect our businesses as well, as others do, and support them to go and make money.
And the businesses have to protect our people and our country.
Yes.
You have heard of something like Pukushwe Munyerasiliwa?
Pukuchwe Munyerasiliwa. Yes, I've heard of it.
Just explain it a little bit, how that fits in.
When you think you are living, you go to the village well, because you are migrating, you go to the village well where you used to draw water for drinking and cooking and so on. You mess it up.
You defecate in it.
Then you go. You think you have gone forever, you never come back. Something where you have gone happens, and you are forced to return. And you are forced to go and get water from the same well you messed up. So don't mess up your homeland. Don't mess up where you come from.
Wonderful.
The country owes you something, but you also owe it a lot. You are rich, you are making money, you're a famous business because of your people. Don't forget them. Don't forget your homeland.
So let's move to something. People keep on asking, what will be your priorities as a socialist party in terms of the economy, in terms of your spending? And we have been very categorical about 5 areas. And if you're a member of the Socialist Party, this is something that you have internalized. And for the viewers that are outside, here are the 5 thrust areas of the Socialist Party in the first 10 years of government. 1 is education. We are going to spend a whopping 25% of our national budget on education. Number 2 is health. We are going to spend 20% of our national budget on health. We have number 3, food production systems. Some people call it food sovereignty. Number 3 is our water, housing, and sanitation. If you look at those 4, education, health, food, and then water, housing, sanitation, these are about creating social capital, improving the basic needs, the basic living conditions of our people. But they're also a business. Then there's number 5 called the defense. And the defense is an industry. Defense is about ensuring that this country remains peaceful. This country can be defended and can be protected. So these are the 5 major areas. I'll go through them. Education, health, food production systems, water, housing, sanitation, and the defense. So these priorities require concerted efforts from all areas. Apart from government, the public sector, we are also looking at the private sector. We are looking at cooperatives. We are looking at individual entrepreneurs, all coming in order to make this viable, to make it feasible. So you cannot achieve anything if it's only government. And these areas, these major thrust areas, must be divided in such a way that there is space to play for everyone. And our private businesses have to grow within those particular priorities. We are not taking away any other areas of engagement, but what we are saying is that the first 10 years, we need to grow the social capital of the country. The social capital is your number 1 economic good. Any country that has invested in people, in their lives, in their well-being, that country ends up doing better. 15 years, 20 years to go, Zambia will have the highest levels of productivity on the continent if we do the basic investments in the first 10 years. That's the idea behind it. Now, education. If government is going to put a whole 20% in education, we're also expecting the private sector to play a part in education. What part is the private sector going to play in education in Zambia?
Right now, the private sector is playing a role in Zambia that it has never played before. When Comrade Chris, Comrade Cosmas and I were starting school, in primary education, there was very, very little private sector.
Some of us did not even know that.
Yes, there was very little for white people.
In the towns?
Yes. They used to call them fee-paying schools for white people and maybe a few rich blacks. There was very little also in secondary school. The private secondary schools that were there were for failures. In Lusaka, we had Wirikiti by the late Shamwana. We had Midlands and so on. When you are going to Wirikiti, you cheat that you know you are actually going to Munari or you are going to Matero or Kamwala because it was embarrassing. Colleges, there was also very little, maybe for secretarial work, stenographers and so on. There was very little. But today we cannot say the same. We have so many private universities today, and they are improving at a very fast rate. We have many colleges today which are also improving. Secondary education, the private sector is playing a very, very key role.
Zambia is becoming a hub for
yes.
education.
Primary school also, we have quite a lot. The socialist government will not come and close these. The socialist government will make these much more stronger, much more efficient, effective, and orderly. And they will be assisted much more. Today, we have so many foreign students coming to these private universities.
Yet we are making it very difficult for them to get into these universities.
Now we are charging study permits for 15,000 kwacha. That's what is being going to be paid now.
15,000 kwacha study permit.
Yes, for a year.
Yet this student coming from Zimbabwe or Congo is still paying fees that remain here in Zambia.
Yes, they are coming from the SADC region. 15,000 kwacha. We, the socialist government, will push these schools to bring in more foreign students. We'll also push them to improve their quality and also specialize as far as possible so that they can create a niche for themselves which even the government can benefit from by sponsoring students there. It can't just be business studies here and there, small courses there. They also need to get into research. When they get into research also, they have to be supported by government. Anybody who gets into research has to be supported in government. So postgraduate studies that are much more focused on research will be supported. We'll support these institutions to bring in as many foreign students as possible, and also to advance much higher in certain areas where they have got the expertise. And those investing in them have got a bigger interest.
And where we think Zambia will benefit from that experience.
Yes. So they will not be left on their own. Those are Zambian institutions that deserve our support. And also government will encourage, them to be more efficient, to be more competitive internationally. Our embassies, our high commissions will support them in foreign countries to get the students that are needed.
What is so difficult to have a Zambian private university that matches to the standards of South Korea, to the standards of Finland, to the standards of Russia, to the standards of China? What's so difficult with that?
What is difficult is to getting government support for them. These universities that are flourishing in other countries, they're supported by the government. They are supported by the government. Again, we come to the notion that yes, they are all privately owned, but they are for the public. When you look at it,
Thank you.
when you look at what the owners of Lusaka University, Eden University are getting out of it themselves, it's very little.
Maybe we should emphasize that issue.
Yes.
And again, what the president was saying initially and now is this. When you have an entrepreneur, you have a Zambian business person running an entity, it's not his or hers alone. That business is creating employment for Zambians. That business is creating value for suppliers, people that are supplying to that institution. That business is creating a brand also for the entire country. And so for that business is creating tax that the general public will benefit from. Yes, there's a profit. Yes, there's something that accrues to that entrepreneur. But let's stop looking at that entity as if government is not concerned, as if the public is not concerned. We are concerned with Zambian entities. The Socialist Party feels that any business that you come up with in Zambia, it's a Zambian business, and you deserve as much support as foreign businesses do get from their governments.
That's the issue, and that's what is missing.
Yeah, but government has got a very big interest. It gets an income from there. It gets
much
taxes
so.
from there.
Very much so.
So to get those taxes, we need to support those businesses. You can't just milk a cow you don't feed.
Can you say the issue of the cow again? That you are milking a cow,
But you don't
you're
want-
not feeding.
you don't want to
You are
feed
not
it.
giving it water.
Yes.
But you still expect that cow to produce
Yes.
more milk.
Yes.
Will that
don't-
cow last longer?
No, it won't. So the government has the duty to support these, even out of strict self-interest.
Exactly. Exactly.
The government is benefiting from Lusaka University. The government is benefiting from Eden University. The government is benefiting from Apex University and other universities. Why not support them to get that benefit?
And you still impose 15,000 kwacha to every student. Is that not a limiting factor?
It's a limiting factor. By encouraging more students to come, we will get more than the 15,000 kwacha.
So those in government, please listen to this very careful. Take away that 15,000 kwacha.
You will get more than the 15,000 kwacha you have forgone.
It's short-sighted. It doesn't help us much. Let's encourage the universities to get in more foreign students. This policy, that charge that you're putting there, lowers down Zambia as a competitive market for students.
And also there should be no discrimination in certain core courses that we need. Take for instance the training of doctors, medical staff. We are short of doctors. We need more doctors. We need not to have less than 150,000 kids every year being taken. If there are private universities that are doing that to assist the country, to assist the nation, they deserve our support in training those young doctors.
Now that you're mentioning doctors, let's go to health. Health, we said we are going to spend 20% of our national budget on it.
But before we come out of that, one fact that we need to establish concretely is that education is not only a service, it's also a business. And the country and our entrepreneurs and our people can get a benefit, can earn a living from education. It can grow this economy by creating jobs, by creating opportunities for people to prosper. So we are looking at education also as a business. Education will employ more people. We employ more people than the mines. Even right now, education employs more people than the mines. Mining jobs are going to continually shrink, while education opportunities for employment are going to grow. The money that we get from mining, we have to invest, to invest some of it in education.
Because education is self-sustaining.
It's self-sustaining.
It's long-term.
It's long-term.
The minerals
it's not
will
shared.
deplenish and there will be no minerals at the end.
Education, the need for education will never cease.
In the Zambian languages, we'll say education wamuyayai.
Wamuyayaya. It's permanent.
You know, that reminds me, there was a Malaysian economist, members of the Economics Association of Zambia, you may remind us of the name, but there was an economist that got into Zambia some years back, and he advised us, if Zambia wants to develop, you want to move further, your priority areas should be education and health. That's where you're going to earn more money than in copper.
That has remained true. The Socialist Party believes in it. So if we go to health, health is a business.
But also you can't go to health without education.
They are interlinked.
Yes.
Very much so.
To have doctors, you need education.
Exactly.
To have nurses, you need education.
And to have education, you need them to be healthy.
You need them to be health.
So let's go to health again. Health is a business.
How do we bring in our Zambian entrepreneurs? Maybe let me also give it to the General Treasurer.
No, I'm going to touch on the earlier issues we spoke about.
Go on.
Yeah, if you just lift up your voice again.
The 5 sectors that you mentioned, the education, the health, the water and sanitation. Now, these are also interrelated. If you underplay your water and sanitation sector, your health sector is going to suffer massively, because all the disease that's going to come because of the lack of proper water and sanitation is all going to manifest itself in your hospital. Education comes very well as well, because when you start your education at an early age and they are taught the facts of sanitation and so on, your cost on health is going to drastically also go down. So those sectors that I mentioned, they are not isolated. You put water and sanitation there, education there, health there. They are not isolated. They are very much interlinked.
You were actually director, and I remember a lot of your work in Congo with the WHO. You did something on the socio-economic determinants of health.
Yes.
The socio-economic determinants of health is also health. It's about your clean air. It's about clean living environment. It's about your water. It's about your sanitation.
Your food.
Yes, your food. All that shape what health becomes.
That's right. If you miss those, the burden that you are going to have on your health sector, on your economy is going to be very huge.
So again, how do we make health a business?
So, many of these areas you need the private sector to come in. As indicated, you cannot say this is going to be left entirely to the public sector. The public sector can take care of the issues of controls. How do we ensure that the medicines that you are giving your hospitals are the right medications? How do we ensure that your medical staff is a qualified staff? These are critical areas where government comes in to ensure there are proper controls and so on. But support the private sector to be able to offer this under the guidance, under the control of the government.
So again, the socialist government will have, I would say, big pharmaceutical industries, public and private. But pharmaceutical industry